Why do more than 35,000 people a year want to climb Kilimanjaro?
Is it about discovering your own resilience, perseverance, and determination? About understanding the greatness that lies within you? For me, it was because my husband said it would be a walk up a hill compared to the mountains of the moon.
Welcome to day one of our 9-day Northern Circuit route.
Our day started at our hotel in Moshi at 7 a.m. and a 1 hour 40-minute drive to the Londa Rossi Gate, where we were the first to arrive.
It took 2 hours for our 14 porters and 2 guides to have their bags weighed and checked, as they are only allowed to carry 20 kilos each. This entourage, I'll have you know, was just for the tourists.
The walk to Mt Makubwa camp took us 3 hours of steady uphill walking along well-maintained paths through the lush rainforest that adorns the mountain's base.
We arrived early to a relatively empty and quiet campsite, but by nightfall a small city had sprung up all around us. There must have been 200 people in the camp.
Let us show you around our camp. 2 little sleeping tents, one for our guides and one for us. We paid extra for our own private toilet and shower.
If you know what the public long drops are like on other treks, then paying for a private toilet is heaven and the best money spent.
There was a kitchen tent and a tent for the porters, as well as an enormous dining tent. Of all the treks we have ever done, this was definitely the most luxurious.
Day 2, we left camp at 8 a.m. and head for Shira 1 camp. The path starts with undulating up and down through the forest and finally into the heather zone.
We watch in amazement as this tense city ups and moves up the mountain, forming queues at a few points because of all the hikers and the army of porters.
The path turns rocky and sandy. There was lots of dust from all the people walking, so it's a good idea to wear a buff as a mask. Behind me, the path turns steeply upwards and heads to Shira Plateau and Shira 1 camp, and took us 5 hours to complete. We get our first glimpse of Kili in the clouds.
Wow! Smells delicious!
Yes, you're welcome.
The cooking tent and facilities are pretty basic, but the amount and the quality of food that our chef Richard turns out for 16 people never cease to amaze us. Do not expect to lose any weight on this trek.
Today we head to Shira 2 camp. Our guides give us the option to go via Shira Cathedral Peak, and we break away from the crowds and head off over the grasslands.
An easy walk, and 3 hours later we are at the top of Shira Cathedral. To get to the top there is a very steep rocky ridge with spectacular views over the Shira Plateau and the rainforest to the south of the mountain.
Head on to Shira 2 camp, which takes us 1.5 hours, and we're in camp for lunch.
Our guide does oxygen level checks every morning and every evening. We are still feeling strong. On day 4 at 8 a.m. we head to Lava Tower for an acclimatization hike, and then down to Moya camp for the night. It takes us 4 hours to Lava Tower with 2 tea breaks along the way.
The trail is a steady uphill climb as we move into the alpine zone with lots of volcanic rock and beautiful white lasting flowering bushes. It's tough going as the air becomes thinner and you can only go as fast as you're breathing, so pole pole.
Every day, with the exception of the summit day and the last day, Living, our waiter, would set up a tea station for us en route, which included hot tea and an assortment of snacks.
arrive at Lava Tower to find that our private toilet, kitchen tent and dining tent have been set up for a delicious lunch.
After lunch, we leave the crowds behind as they head south and we head north to Moya Camp. It begins to rain, sleet and then snow. The descent takes us 1.5 hours as we race off, backtracking a portion of the trail before turning off to Moya Camp.
Back in our small sleeping tent, a little wet, we now realize a slightly bigger tent would have been better, so we could hang up our wet backpack and clothes. We did see other groups with slightly bigger tunnel tents, which might have been a bit more comfortable. Just an idea to ask if there are any different sleeping tent options when booking your trip.
Shower, popcorn, dinner and bed. It's been a long day and tonight is cold and rainy.
Day 5, we wake to rain and cold gusty wind, but by 6:30 the rain has thankfully stopped. Our wet clothes did not dry overnight. It's a good idea to pack 2 sets of essentials in the case one gets wet.
We start with a tough pull upwards, with amazing views of Kili covered in fresh snow from the night before.
The wind and clouds stay with us throughout the day as we walk over rocks and shards of slate. The day takes us 5 hours and we reach Buffalo Camp for lunch.
We get to camp and the porters have taken our suggestion to convert our eating tent into a mansion by putting our small tent inside. So now we have plenty of space to hang wet clothes and backpacks. This was amazing.
It pays to have a good sleeping bag. Each night we went to bed with our -20-degree sleeping bag, with sleeping bag liner, 2 sets of thermal leggings, 2 tops, and had a hot water bottle that our guides gave us each night. We were toasty warm.
Day 6, we head to Third Cave Camp in a relatively easy walk over rocky paths which rise and fall for 4 hours.
We woke at 5:30 to a spectacular sunrise above the clouds, ice on the ground and a beautiful clear view of Kili and her snow-capped peak.
We made a decision this morning to go to Kibu Hut instead of School Hut for our base camp. Our guides told us that the summit route from School Hut has some rocky sections at the start, while Kibu has scree from the whole way. So we decided easier was best. A shower really makes these long treks so much more comfortable, and you feel like new after a dusty day's walk. Day 7, we head to Kibo Hut. It is a steady uphill pull all the way over plains of scree with a few rocky bands. It took us 3 hours.
After lunch, we pack our backpacks for tonight's summit, get our clothes out, and try to get some sleep before our 10 p.m. wake-up call and 12 a.m. start.
Day 8 takes us from Kibo Hut to Gilman's Point, then on to Stella Point, and finally Uhuru Peak. Before returning back to Stella Point and down to Millennium Camp.
There is a beautiful full moon tonight. The wind has disappeared and Kibo Hut is peaceful. Only about 4 groups heading for the summit. We made the right decision to go from here. We are feeling strong.
The first 5 hours zigzag steeply upwards on scree with some rocky scrambling sections up to 5,700 meters. You can feel the altitude now, and you have to pace yourself with your breath as not to get out of breath and exhausted too quickly.
We reached Gilman's Point at 5 a.m., then on to Stella Point. Gilman's to Stella Point is relatively flat but rocky.
There is lots of snow around and the top is covered in a white blanket. The higher we get, the colder it gets. It's freezing at the top.
Stella to Uhuru Peak is a slow, gentle uphill that never seems to end, with 2 rocky sections.
The full moon illuminates the snow-covered path as we walk west, while the first light of dawn welcomes us to the top of Kilimanjaro from the east.
Feeling cold but still strong, for the first time we realized this is not a hill, but a massive mountain. We are standing on a dormant volcano and the highest freestanding mountain in the world. You can almost see the edge of the atmosphere from here. What an achievement. At 6:40 a.m. we finally reach Uhuru Peak.
We spent some time celebrating with the team and taking in the view before heading down.
The snow is frozen and icy, so to make it safer we put our micro spikes on our boots for the way down. They also help with the traction on the slippery scree.
We head down via Stella Point and reach Barafu Camp at 11:30 for lunch. Then we have another 1.5 hour walk to Millennial Camp where we'll spend the night. Today's 2,000 meter descent is very hard on the legs and knees.
At Millennium Camp we rest after a 12-hour day in the peace and quiet as most of the people continue to Mweka Camp and relax and reflect on the day.
We slept very well and left at 7:30 the next morning for our final day. It took us 4.5 hours to get to Mweka Gate with another 2,000 meter descent. This is relentless. Don't forget to train for this downhill.
Start above the clouds on a lovely cemented rocky path. Go through the clouds into the misty forest. As you get into the forest, the path gets muddier. Watch out for slippery patches and concentrate on where you put your feet.
It ends with a 3-kilometer dirt road and tired legs. This is a moment to savor and a memory etched into our souls forever.
That was a pop!
One team,
One team,
one dream,
one team,
one team,
one dream.
non-stop,
To the top,
to the top,
non-stop.
hakuna
Matata,
matata.
hakuna.
Everyone say amazing.
Jambo, jambo bwana, habari gani? Nzuri sana, wageni, wageni, wakaribishwa wapi? Kilimanjaro, hakuna matata. Enda kusamiti, hakuna matata. Wamerudi wako bomba, hakuna matata. Leo mtu nashuka, hakuna matata. Ukishawa tutapika, hakuna matata. Kilimanjaro, Kilimanjaro, Kilimanjaro.
Thanks to our guides Jafari and Hans, Chef Richard, Way to Living, and all the other people that helped us get to the top of Africa.
It
It
was
was
amazing.